Hey guys, how's it going? Richard here from Alien Bros, team dedicated to the study of UFOs, military bases, and everything else alien. In this video, we'll be going over Area 51 and S4 in extreme detail, and the legends that are behind it will now make even less sense. Some of this stuff you may have already heard of, and some of it probably not. However, I am going to go over the basic history first before getting into the real juicy details of S4 so that the people new to the UFO community can understand why this base is constantly mentioned in the UFO folklore. The stuff I am about to tell you is all leaked information from people who have worked at the base, and for you to understand them, you need to know where the whole alien legend began. The photo you're looking at right now is actually a picture of S4, and we'll get into that in more detail later. Anyway, you would be hard-pressed to find a single person who hasn't heard of the famous crash in Roswell, New Mexico, right? But for those of you that are new to ufology, we will go over it in brief detail. On June 14, 1947, William Brazel, a foreman working on the Foster homestead, noticed a cluster of debris approximately 30 miles north of Roswell, New Mexico. This date, or about 3 weeks before July 8th, appeared in later stories featuring Brazel, but the initial press release from Roswell Army Airfield said the find was sometime last week, suggesting Brazel found the debris in early July. The same day, the Army issued a statement saying they had recovered a flying saucer, but the following day, they retracted the statement, saying it was only a weather balloon. What you're seeing right now is actually the newspaper release from the day that they found the craft. Now, I'm going to show you the day following, where they retracted the statement. This is the press release the following day, where they attempted to debunk the flying saucer and cool America's excitement down. At the time, everybody believed them because nobody really questioned their government. They believed that their government always had their best interests at heart and would not lie to them. After this, it was 30 years until Roswell would come back in the public spotlight, and since then, there have been over 300 eyewitnesses, many of which either saw the crash craft or worked on the base, and after all of these years that have gone by since the incident, their stories are remarkably similar and never changing. What's more, there have been people constantly scouring the area hoping to find some of the debris. There were rumors that Brazel took some of the debris and hid it in a cave somewhere before the Army got there, but his debris that were supposedly hidden in these caves have never been found, and neither has any other debris from where the UFO actually crashed. The witnesses all claim to have seen something far more spectacular than just a flying disc. They claimed there were 4-foot-tall humanoid creatures with big heads, and 3 were dead, with 2 being badly wounded. These beings are assumed to be aliens. At least, that is the most popular theory. There is another that claims these were kids sent by the Soviet Union as a power move, and that these kids were mutilated and genetically modified to look like aliens, to cause distrust in the US citizens and their government. Both of these stories are crazy. However, the idea that Russia sent the UFO to cause distrust seems a bit out there, but with the powers that both nations have, you can never be too sure what they might do and be capable of to increase their power. Now that we have the Roswell crash out of the way, it is time to explain what supposedly happened to the alien bodies in the crashed craft. It is said these aliens were first immediately flown by special plane to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and were taken into the famous Hangar 18. Soon after the Roswell debris arrived at the base, the class of 1947, from the military's elite airman training facility, a prestigious air war college, is flown to Wright-Patterson to investigate. At the time that they saw these alien bodies, they were all sworn to secrecy and told never to speak on it, and if they did, there would be dire consequences, not only to them, but to every generation of their families that came after them. The same approach was taken by military officials when speaking to eyewitnesses of the crash. They were threatened with the same thing, and at the time, were scared enough to keep their mouths shut and never let the info out. Although, when they got older, they decided not to keep the secret anymore, and the vast majority of them told their stories. Unfortunately, the vast majority of eyewitnesses are very old now, and most are dead and unable to be interviewed. It was right after this the technology was flown to Area 51. The stories say that the live aliens were taken to Area 51 with the craft, and are being kept in a secret location in the Papoose Mountains called S4. This is what the majority of whistleblower accounts state, with one example being Bob Lazar, although he claimed to have only worked on reverse engineering crash flying saucers at S4 and never saw any aliens other than in pictures.
Bob was also not permitted to go anywhere without escorts, so he was unsure if there were lower levels to the base that may have housed alien beings.
There have been multiple other claimed ex-employees that have came out claiming to have worked at S4 and that there is indeed lower levels to the facility and they are harboring aliens there.
It is said the dead bodies of the aliens were kept in a hangar called Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Today there is no Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson, but it is believed that there is the possibility of it being moved underground. Dead alien bodies are being kept in some sort of a preservation chamber for storage. Now, I'd like to introduce my friend, he's a good friend of mine, a little late on the video I know, but you know, he just got here, so I'm gonna, you know, put him on with me. His name is Andres, be nice to him.
From here, the first Area 51 legend was born, and the government has been accused of reverse engineering alien technology ever since. One more bit of info about this you should be aware of is that after the first UFO crash before Roswell, Roswell was the second alleged crash to occur in modern US history where bodies and UFO technology were allegedly attained. Technology began a rapid ascent with things like fiber optics seeming to pop almost out of nowhere, and these advances continue today and are only accelerating as we learn more and become more capable of recreating the technology we obtained from these UFOs.
I want to thank those of you who are already aware of all this information for being patient and sitting through it, because this whole explanation of the backstory was solely for those who are new to this field and haven't done any research on it and don't understand the reasons why Area 51 is seen as such an important place in the UFO community. Now, let's get into the information that most of you have probably never heard before.
The first legend, which was started by whistleblowers and alleged documents that look extremely authentic but have been heavily debated in regards to their authenticity, have indicated that a secret group that is essentially a government organization formed by special classified presidential order in 1947 to deal with all the alien crashes and contacts. This group is known as Majestic 12 or MJ-12. This organization is a super secret sector of the US government with a security clearance many levels above the highest classification clearance available to the normal military personnel. According to whistleblowers, and especially one specific whistleblower that was interviewed live twice on the Art Belt Show in disguise, had his voice changed and went by the alias Victor.
The tale goes that the government had been in contact with the gray aliens since the Roswell crash. They even had one end up staying with them at the base, particularly in S4. They called these aliens J-Rods, which stands for their galaxy and how many light years it is from Earth. It is unknown if the second J-Rod chose to stay here as a guest or if he was held against his will, but according to the source, he died of unknown causes, and later another alien came to take his place, which they called EBE-2, or just another J-Rod. Supposedly, we were trying to cure the first J-Rod, and for those of you who don't know what an EBE is, it stands for Extraterrestrial Biological Entity.
J-Rod number 1 was also extremely sick and dying when he arrived.
Supposedly, they would interview this J-Rod twice a month in a dark room and try to get him to teach them how the alien's technology. The alien would tell them things, although it would never be clear-cut answers that the scientists could understand. The scientists interviewing the alien were supposedly very frustrated by this since they realized their own knowledge was so inferior that they were unable to grasp the concepts put forth by these beings. They communicated with the first J-Rod through a telepath and there was a language barrier, but the alien was able to learn English super fast.
And as the language barrier fell, a knowledge barrier rose in its place. Also, Andres had to leave, so he won't be on the rest of the video. He'll be back in future videos. Let me know what you guys think of him down in the comments. Anyway, moving on. The government seemed to have strong faith in the abilities of the telepaths, and the evidence in the files released by the CIA confirms that. The CIA was extremely interested in psychic abilities. Oftentimes, the aliens would have trouble translating their advanced knowledge through the telepath into terms that the scientists could understand. The aliens would only talk to them twice a month for a few hours at a time due to his fading health, and it was vital that they get the answers from the J-Rod during these interviews, since he would develop headaches and other unknown ailments which rendered the J-Rod unable to speak through the telepath. When they interviewed the J-Rod, it would always be in a dark room for the aliens' comfort. Often the aliens would tell them answers that translated into some spiritual stuff, like how this world doesn't matter and that they should not fear death, for the body is only a vessel and death is simply a transition to a new body. Essentially, they were confident in knowing what comes after death. My theory on this is that the alien could have had no idea what happens after death and was simply very religious. However, it is unlikely considering how advanced these beings are that would be the case. They probably do have some sort of scientific understanding of what comes after death since they've had so much more time to advance and use scientific method to figure it out.
The things the aliens would tell the scientists would never seem to make any sense. The aliens believe that the soul and technology are one, and technology is just a tool used to sharpen oneself. We simply weren't capable of understanding what the aliens are trying to teach us, and it was about the equivalent of trying to teach advanced nuclear physics to a monkey. It was also speculated by Victor, the source, that the aliens may have been telling us this stuff simply to make us feel better in the same way a vet would tell a dog that everything is going to be alright before he puts it to sleep or neuters it. The alien may have simply been saying this stuff to make the scientists feel better about being unable to understand the aliens' technology and wanted to give the scientists a bit of information they would actually be capable of understanding. This was all just Victor's speculation though. Now moving on from there, we get to what is probably the most important part of this entire video. The next thing I want to tell you guys about is a whistleblower that actually confirmed Bob Lazar's description of S4, and not only confirmed it, but gave us way greater detail on it. Now, for those of you who don't know what S4 is, it's a location in the Papoose Mountains next to the Papoose Mountains dry lake bed, and it is hidden in the foot of the mountain. It's about 15 miles south of Area 51. It is a facility with a row of 9 hangars, which are all camouflaged to look as though they are simply a part of the mountain. Now, many of you are probably aware of what S4 is, and you've all probably heard Bob Lazar's description of it. However, I doubt you have heard the very detailed description of what exactly is in the hangars and the rest of the base. Well, that all changes today, because we have been provided by an ex-employee named Dr. Dan Burish extreme details on S4 and what's there. And I want to make this clear before we go on, that Dr. Burish has no ties to the ufology community, nor does he want any and never will. This is only what he claimed to have saw while working at S4, which certainly raises his credibility quite a lot, at least in my book. This also makes things even more interesting because we now have another employee that confirms both Bob Lazar's and Victor's stories. And before we move on, those of you who discredit Bob Lazar for his lack of credentials, I would like to draw a comparison to Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower that is responsible for telling the American public the details of Project Prism and how he was a high school dropout and managed to land a job at the NSA. Look into that and then compare him to Bob Lazar. You will see it's basically the same story with just 2 different people. Alright, so first let's get into the details of S4. And remember, this is via the testimony of Dr. Burish. This facility goes 5 levels underground, and we will cover all of them in detail. But first, we will cover the contents of the 9 hangars. The first hangar, Hangar Bay 1, contained Bob Lazar's sport model, or a P-45 sport model, the one that Bob Lazar is reverse engineering, and the one you're seeing in the picture on the screen. It's basically a normal UFO. Hangar Bay number 2 is believed to house the exact same vehicle, or an ARV, which is an alien reproduction vehicle. Hangar Bay number 3 contained the Roswell craft. This was covered up by a tarp, so Dr. Burish didn't get to see the entire configuration of the craft, but it was indeed the Roswell craft, as his superiors had confirmed this to him. Hangar Bay number 4, there was the P-52 Orion craft. Hangar Bay number 5 was empty. Hangar Bay 6 contained a man-made F-22 conversion, or what was essentially a man-made version of what was in Hangar 3, which was the Roswell crash. Apparently, we were able to recreate that ship to some degree. Hangar Bay number 7 contained the 1953 crash retrieval from Kingman, Arizona. Hangar Bay 8 contained a black isosceles triangle that was nicknamed the Licorice Drop. And finally, Hangar Bay 9 was empty. Now let's get to the setup of the rest of the facility. The first floor, other than these hangars, consisted of a biohazard suppression area, the overflow files department, the communications area, and a room that was essentially just a cafeteria. Now, as Bob Lazar said, S4 is very secretive, just like Area 51, and you have to stick with people that are working on the same project as you at all times. This carried over to the cafeteria, as people working on stuff like Project Galileo would sit in one section, while people working on Project Looking Glass or Project Pegasus would sit in another section, and they would all be divided up away from one another to ensure nobody would gain knowledge of other projects that they were not assigned to. When you first walk into the facility, there is a nurse and a weighing pad, and they weigh you naked when you come in, and when you leave, they search you and weigh you naked again to make sure you aren't smuggling anything out of S4, and that is why people have been unable to do so. After walking forward down the hallway, there's an avionics lab and a propulsion systems lab, both on the left-hand side of the hallway. Walking down the hallway will take you to a catwalk in the top of the hangars, where you can see the alien spaceships that the government has been working on reverse engineering and trying to recreate. Now, something you guys may find very interesting is that according to Dr. Burish, the F-22 Raptor fighter plane actually originated from the original Roswell crash of 1947. The way he said we can see this is by removing the vertical stabilizers, the air intakes, and then drawing a spline curve through all of the major intersecting points on the Raptor, and what you will end up with is the Roswell craft.
This can be proven by looking through the historical legacy on the origin point of stealth technology, and if you do, you will see there is a defining feature that goes through all of the configurations. They all contain the same design model and wing-to-rut fuselage setup, which is completely integrated and smooth contoured identical to the B-2 stealth bomber, which was done to reduce radar cross-signature. That key design feature on all of these stealth planes is the same thing you will see on the Roswell craft.
Now, what is also very peculiar in my opinion about Hangar Bay 8's UFO, the Black Isosceles Triangle, was how Burish described it. Dr. Burish also drew a lot of pictures of this UFO, and it looked incredibly similar to the obelisk in the video where a man named Jonathan Reed purportedly killed an alien, and the alien had this black triangle obelisk floating in the woods where he found it. You're seeing that obelisk in this picture. I'm not saying that this verifies that that footage is real, and many people have tried to discredit him and say that the footage is definitely a fake, but they are eerily similar in appearance, and if you haven't seen that before, I definitely suggest checking that out. Now on the next floor, things get really crazy. First of all, there was a statue of a rabbit, which was symbolic of when you enter this floor, you're going down the rabbit's hole like Alice in Wonderland, and there truly is no better description of what takes place on this floor, because it truly is like entering a new world. This contained a few storage facilities for different projects, but the most important part of this floor is the fact that it has access to multiple stargates by using a device called the Looking Glass, which the US government used to access naturally occurring stargates around the world, which they likely obtained from the aliens that they have kept or keep at the base currently. A stargate is essentially a dimensional rip that allows a person to travel back in time or forward in time, and they will end up in a different timeline or affect their own timeline depending on the stargate. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Project Pegasus, but it was a CIA-ran project where they sent kids around 8 years old, usually in the 3rd grade, back in time to certain historic points, and there have not only been people that have came forward and said that they were a part of it, but there is also photographs that seem to be proof of it. The one you're looking at right now is a photograph that was taken when President Lincoln was giving the Gettysburg Address, and as you can see, there is a kid in it that looks completely like he shouldn't be there. He's wearing clothes that clearly don't coincide with that era, and he just looks strange and out of place. There are many other pictures with people that look like they don't belong in them in that point of history that it was taken, and it is all clear cut. I am showing you another one of them right now. This may or may not be proof of Project Pegasus, but I myself and many others do feel that it is significant proof of us accessing time travel at some point, whether it be past, present, or in our near future. And if it is in the future, I imagine it is very near, because these people look like they belong in the current generation. I highly suggest you research into this project, because once you do, you will certainly be left scratching your heads. These altered timelines may also explain the Mandela effect, which I'm sure most of you have heard about already, but if not, I'll save it for another video, and I suggest you research it for now, because it is truly some crazy stuff. Now the next floor is the 3rd floor, which is the Majestic 12 residential suites. This is where they stay when they go to S4. It consists of 3 separate branches, each containing 4 residential suites. Each suite is a 1-bedroom apartment with a sunken living area, and there is a tile walkway to enter the facility, and each suite has a single TV and 1 single bathroom. Now moving on to the 4th floor, this floor has a badge board and a meeting room / boardroom, and in that facility there are multiple biocontainment labs, all with decontamination areas, and Dan Burish's desk was also on this floor. Now the 5th floor is the one that may be the most intriguing of all. This floor consisted of a clean sphere which housed the J-Rod. They kept the J-Rod in the sphere not because they were worried about catching a form of bacteria from him, but because they were worried that they would make the J-Rod more ill than it already was. They assumed that if the aliens were going to make us ill, then it would have happened long ago, and supposedly the aliens race had managed to eliminate all bacteria on themselves in their homeworld a long time ago. After J-Rod number 2 died, it is believed that we ceased working with the aliens. We had a contract with the aliens to trade our DNA for their technology, which was supposed to be kept on the 4th floor of S4, but there was an incident that is believed to have avoided it. There was a meeting between the aliens and employees at S4, and the aliens had created some sort of field around them that would cause all bullets to explode if they were brought into the field, which was supposed to be a technology for them to trade for the DNA. However, the security at S4 did not understand what the aliens were trying to communicate about the energy field and walked into it anyway, which caused all of their weapons to go off, killing them all instantly. After that, it is believed that we ceased trading with the aliens. However, this could have changed. According to Victor, in a second interview he had 11 years later, again with Art Bell under anonymity, he claimed that we were going to be invaded in 30 years or so, and that the end times are near. Now, you can take that how you want it. Personally, I won't let it keep me up at night, because knowing our government, they would do their best to avoid that sort of cataclysmic event and would try to make peace with the aliens lest they kill us all, including them. I would think if an invasion were going to happen, it would have already happened since the Art Bell interview was quite some time ago. However, in the second interview, there was one thing that seemed to lend credibility to Victor's claims. In the second interview, he said he was dying, and he was coughing and having trouble speaking. I think this is because he breathed in all those toxic chemicals while working at Area 51 and S4, just like every other employee that works there, and they all breathe in the unknown chemicals, and that was basically what was killing him. That's just my theory anyway. Although it would make a lot of sense considering the fact that a lot of the workers there were developing deadly lung problems and poisoning from the stealth aircraft chemicals and other toxic waste being burned at Area 51. They all even filed a lawsuit over it, even though the lawsuit was thrown out due to matters of national security. One more fun fact is that Area 51's no-fly zone actually extends all the way into space, so technically if you're in space and cross into the box, you're in a no-fly zone, and they could shoot you down for it no matter how far away you are from the planet. I just figured maybe you guys would find that interesting. Anyways, that's about all I have for you for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something new about the biggest and most poorly kept secret in the history of the world. And I'm not saying I 100% believe everything here, but a lot of it is in such great detail with such great evidence from such great sources, I find it hard not to believe it. Let us know what you guys think about Area 51 and S4. We would love to hear your theories and opinions about the base, so please leave a comment. And if you guys enjoyed the video and like the work we're doing here on the channel, then please give us a like and a share, and most importantly subscribe and tap that notification bell so you can get all of our videos as soon as we release them sent straight to your inbox, so you can stay up to date on all the latest alien related news and increase your knowledge with videos like this one. We're your #1 source for alternative news, and we release new content as often as possible, almost daily if we can. It's just hard since it does cost us money and YouTube keeps demonetizing our videos and hardly paying us anything. If you guys really want to help support us even more than just subscribing, then please sign up to become a patron on our Patreon page. It would mean the world to us, and it would help us make new content and upgrade our video quality, all while allowing us to continue our search for the truth. We will find the truth, and we promise disclosure is coming. Stay tuned, guys, because we have a lot more coming very soon. I hope to see you guys again. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all again next video.